Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we've got a really unique mission. We're going to be tearing into the new Anthropic Economic Index report.
Yeah, this is this big one.
It really is. It gives this unprecedented view of AI adoption, pulling data straight from Claude.ai chats, and, importantly, enterprise API usage.
Real world stuff.
Exactly. So if you want the real story on how AI is being integrated, like right now,
Yeah.
this is probably the best data we have. And the first thing, the very first thing that just hits you is the speed. It's
Right.
phenomenal.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking about a velocity that sort of rewrites the tech adoption playbook.
It feels like it, yeah.
It really is staggering. The report makes this comparison, which is quite stark. AI hit widespread adoption rates in just, 2 years?
2 years.
Yeah. And you compare that to the internet, that took about 5 years to get to similar levels.
So double the speed, basically.
Pretty much, double time.
Which suggests it's not just that the tech is good, it must also be, incredibly easy to start using, low friction.
Precisely.
Yeah.
That's a key factor. Unlike, setting up internet infrastructure back in the day, AI just uses the digital channels we already have.
Right, you just type or talk to it.
Exactly. You type, you speak, you plug it into an existing app via an API. And in the U.S., you can really see the effect. The report says 40% of employees now say they use AI at work.
40%. And that's up from...
Up from 20% in 2023.
Wow. Doubled in a year.
Doubled. So this isn't some slow burn. It's more like a sudden acceleration. It's sweeping through faster than we expected.
Okay, so our challenge today, our deep dive, is to get past just, it's fast, and find those sort of aha moments. Who is using it, really? What for? And how are businesses deploying it, systematically versus how are individuals just playing around with it?
Makes sense.
So let's start with those individual users on Claude.ai. The report tracks this evolution over 8 months, right? Through their V1 to V3 reports. What did they find?
Yeah, looking at that 8-month window, the user profile changes. Quite dramatically, actually. Coding and computer tasks. Still the biggest chunk.
Okay, that's kind of the classic use case.
It is. It's holding steady around 36% of the sample. It's like the low-hanging fruit for AI.
But the report hints that even though coding is the volume leader, the really interesting growth is happening somewhere else.
Yes, exactly. We're seeing this tremendous surge in what you might call knowledge-intensive fields, things like educational tasks.
Meaning like summarizing or explaining things.
Right. Synthesis, explanation. That usage share jumped from 9.3% up to 12.4%. That's a big move.
Yeah, it is.
And scientific tasks also rose quite a bit, from 6.3% to 7.2%. It really signals this shift towards AI as a partner for maybe more abstract learning and exploration.
What's really interesting there, though, is the flip side. Usage for things like traditional business operations, finance, management, that share actually fell a bit.
It did.
Why would AI take off in education and science but kind of stall in those standard business chat applications?
Well, it probably comes down to the model's core strengths, right? Which are rapid knowledge synthesis, information retrieval. So educational and scientific uses often need the AI to digest complex stuff and explain it. But standard business tasks, especially management, well, they often need organizational context, right? Relationship nuances, maybe even physical world interaction.
The stuff the model just doesn't have.
Exactly. Current models aren't really equipped for that, which makes those tasks harder to just, hand off immediately through a consumer chat interface.
Okay, that makes sense. So let's unpack not just the what, but the how. The report flags this pretty fundamental change in the user's relationship with the model, this move from augmentation to automation.
Yes, that's probably the most critical finding in this whole section, I think. Augmentation basically means interaction. You're working with the AI.
Like back and forth.
Yeah, iterating, learning, validating what the model gives you. Automation, on the other hand, that's delegation. You just hand the whole task over and expect the final result.
Okay.
And the big driver of this shift is what they call directive conversations.
And how big a shift are we talking about? Is it minor or...
Oh, it's significant. Directive conversations jumped from 27% in late 2024 to 39% in the V3 report, which was August 2025.
39%.
And this is the first time they've reported that automation usage, people just delegating, actually exceeds augmentation usage.
Wow. Okay, so people are trusting it more, or have the models just gotten that much better, more reliable? Which one is it, trust or capability?
That's the key question. And the data, interestingly, points more towards capability.
Really?
Yeah. Trust is obviously part of it, but there's a specific finding within the coding tasks that backs this up. They found a net 7.4 percentage point shift towards code creation.
So writing new code.
Right. And away from debugging and error correction.
Ah, okay. So the model's making fewer mistakes.
Seems like it. Or it needs less hand-holding to get the code right the first time. So when that happens, the user naturally just delegates more. It's efficient, right? Not just an emotional trust thing.
That's a great way to put it. The individual power user evolves from collaborator to delegator over time. But does that nice, clean story hold up everywhere? When you zoom out to the global picture, things get messy, right?
They certainly do. Yeah, that clean trajectory gets complicated fast. So to understand the global pattern, the report introduces this thing called the Anthropic AI Usage Index, or AUI.
AUI, okay.
And it's a really crucial metric because it measures AI usage relative to a place's working age population. It normalizes the data.
Right. So an AUI over 1 means a country is using AI more than you'd expect, just based on its population size. Why did they need that index? Why not just use raw usage numbers?
Well, raw numbers are always skewed by population.
Yeah.
Right? China, India, the U.S. would dominate. The AUI tells us about the intensity of adoption. Where is it really concentrated?
Got it.
And when you map that intensity to global economics, you find this really strong link to wealth.
Huh.
A 1% increase in GDP per capita correlates with about a 0.7% increase in cloud usage per capita.
Okay, so richer countries use it more intensely. That makes sense, and it probably explains the leaderboard. Who's at the top?
Israel leads by a huge margin. Their AUI is 7.0.
7 times the expected usage. Wow. What's going on there?
It likely reflects, a highly specialized knowledge economy, maybe intense competition, and a workforce that was already very digitally mature, high-tech, lots of R&D.
Okay. Who else is up there?
After Israel, you've got Singapore at 4.57x, Australia at a 4.9x, and then the United States at 3.62x.
So it's a pretty clear picture. Advanced, often smaller, service-based economies focused on knowledge work.
That's the pattern.
And then you contrast that with emerging economies. They're lagging way behind. Indonesia's at 0.36x, India 0.27x, Nigeria just 0.2x.
Yeah, and this is where you start to hear the warning bells about global economic inequality.
How so?
Well, if all the productivity gains from AI end up concentrated in these already rich, high-adoption countries, which is what the current usage pattern suggests might happen, it could seriously widen the gap. It could actually increase global economic divergence.
Reversing decades of catch-up growth for some countries.
That's right.
Yeah, that's a sobering thought.
It is.
Let's zoom back into the U.S. for a second. Because even within a high-adoption country like the U.S., it's incredibly uneven state by state. You'd think California, Silicon Valley would be top?
Right. But it's only 2.13x expected usage. Still high, but not the leader.
The leaders are actually D.C. and Utah.
Yep. District of Columbia is at 3.82x, and Utah is right behind at 3.78x.
That's surprising. Why D.C. and Utah?
Well, those local differences really tell a story about economic specialization. Think about D.C. It's a massive hub for policy, legal work, nonprofits.
Lots of documents.
Exactly. High-volume document editing, summarizing, synthesizing. And Utah, it's got a strong tech scene, finance, and also a pretty decentralized workforce, which might encourage early adoption of remote-friendly tools like AI.
And you can actually see that specialization in what they're using it for, too.
Oh, definitely. The report gives examples. California shows higher use for IT support, and translation makes sense with the tech sector. Florida uses it disproportionately for financial services and business consulting. And D.C., that leader, they have really high usage for career assistance, especially job applications like 1.84 times the U.S. average.
Job applications. Interesting. So lots of professionals polishing resumes and cover letters.
Seems like it. High-stakes document work for a professional workforce.
What really strikes me here is that this geographic unevenness isn't just about who uses it or even what they use it for. It's also about how they use it. That automation versus augmentation thing we talked about, it changes geographically, too, leading to this this kind of paradox, right?
Absolutely. This is where the report really makes you rethink what maturity even means in AI adoption.
Yeah.
If you look at the lower adoption countries, say India, their usage is overwhelmingly concentrated on coding. Over half of all their usage is coding, compared to maybe a third globally.
Okay, so sticking to the basics.
Right. Whereas the high adoption regions show much more diverse uses education, science, specialized business tasks like we saw in D.C. or Florida.
So lower adoption means focus on basic tech tasks. But here's the paradox you mentioned. The report says these low AUI countries are actually more likely to automate to delegate the whole task.
That's right.
While the high AUI countries, the leaders, tend to stick more with augmentation, the collaborative mode. That feels backwards compared to the individual user trend. Why?
It is. It's a complete flip of the script we saw with individual users over time.
Yeah.
And it strongly suggests that regional needs or economic context might trump individual user familiarity,
Meaning?
meaning in lower AUI regions, AI is probably being used more as a substitute,
Mm-hmm.
maybe for tasks they couldn't easily do otherwise or couldn't afford to do, or it's about getting raw efficiency quickly, maybe to catch up.
So they need the finished product right away. The automation bridges a gap.
Exactly. They need the automation to bridge a skills gap or execute a core function cheaply. It's about efficiency and substitution for maybe more basic functions.
Okay.
Whereas in the high AOI leading countries, AI seems to be used more for augmentation, for learning, iterating that human-AI collaboration.
So they're using it differently.
Very differently. They seem to be using the model to tackle complex, maybe novel problems that still need human expertise layered on top. They're leveraging AI not just for substitution, but for creativity, complex problem-solving, R&D.
So the individual user might move towards automation personally, but a highly developed national ecosystem actually leans into augmentation to stay innovative.
That seems to be the implication, using AI to enhance their existing edge, rather than just replace basic functions. It's a critical distinction, efficiency use versus innovative use.
That really clarifies the paradox. Okay, let's shift gears one last time and look at businesses, the systematic deployment using Anthropic's first-party API data. This is different from the consumer chat data, right? This is what companies are building with AI.
Exactly. This gives us a peek behind the enterprise curtain. And the first thing to note is enterprise adoption is still pretty early days overall.
Our
The report quotes census data, saying only about 9.7% of U.S. firms report using AI, though it's much higher in the information sector, like 1 in 4 firms there are actively deploying it.
Okay, still nascent, but concentrated in tech-heavy sectors.
Right. But the way businesses use it compared to consumers on Claude.ai is fundamentally different.
How so? How does that API business usage compare to the consumer chat usage?
Well, it's drastically more automated. Way more. About 77% of the business uses they tracked involved automation patterns.
77%, compared to only about half for consumers.
Right. Businesses are clearly integrating AI to perform entire functions programmatically, end to end.
And are the tasks different too?
Yes, more specialized. Computer and mathematical tasks make up 44% of API traffic. That's 8 points higher than on Claude.ai. And office and admin support is another 10%. They're really focusing it on repeatable, high volume, often technical or administrative tasks.
Okay, focusing on automation for specific, repeatable tasks. Now, the economics here are fascinating. Businesses pay per token for API usage. You'd think they'd be super cost-sensitive, optimizing for the cheapest tasks, but the report says no.
Yeah, it's counterintuitive. Price sensitivity seems weak. The report finds that the most frequently used API tasks often tend to cost more per task than the less frequent ones.
More expensive tasks are used more. Why would that be?
It strongly suggests that the model's capability and the economic value of successfully automating a task are way more important than the marginal cost per token.
So if the AI can reliably do something really valuable, like complex data validation or maybe fraud detection.
Exactly, something high value. Businesses seem willing to pay a premium for that reliability and capability. They're not just choosing the cheapest model that can only handle simple, low-impact stuff. They want the power.
Capability trumps cost. That's a huge insight into enterprise thinking. But it's not all smooth sailing for businesses, is it? The report identifies a major bottleneck holding back more complex deployments.
Yes, up.
Context.
Meaning the background information the model needs. This seems to be the single biggest operational hurdle right now for really sophisticated, systematic deployment. The report shows that for the most complex tasks, the ones that result in really long outputs, like 4 times longer,
Okay.
to get those complex outputs, the API customers have to feed the model disproportionately lengthy inputs. They have to provide massive amounts of context upfront.
So if I want the AI to write, say, a complex legal brief for my company, I can't just ask. I first have to give it all the relevant case law, internal policies, maybe even related email chains.
Pretty much. The AI doesn't just magically know your company's specific situation
Yeah.
or its tacit knowledge.
Right. And that information, it's usually scattered everywhere. Isn't it?
Exactly. That's the bottleneck. That context data is often diffused across the organization, maybe locked in old systems, buried in unstructured documents, or just exists as tacit knowledge in employees' heads. So the constraint here implies that for businesses to really leverage AI for high-impact, complex tasks, They first have to undertake these potentially costly data modernization projects. They need organizational investments just to centralize and structure all that institutional knowledge so the AI can even use it.
So the real cost isn't necessarily the AI tokens, it's getting your own house in order first.
That seems to be a major part of it. The cost is making your internal data, your internal knowledge, legible to the machine.
This report really captures AI adoption at such a critical moment. We've seen these two defining themes emerge, haven't we? Unprecedented speed, yes, but also this striking unevenness. Uneven across tasks, across geographies, and how businesses versus individuals are using it.
Absolutely. And just to quickly synthesize those two big paradoxes we discussed, individually, users seem to gain trust and move towards automation over time.
Right.
Yet, paradoxically, the most mature countries, the leading economies, seem to use AI more for augmentation, suggesting innovation still relies heavily on that human-AI collaboration.
And the second paradox.
Systematically, businesses using APIs prioritize capability over cost, which drives that huge 77% automation rate for specific tasks. But that automation hits a wall for complex problems because of the context bottleneck.
So, wrapping this up, what's the big takeaway for you, the listener, thinking about the future, maybe your career? This context issue seems key. If complex AI tasks need all this tacit, diffused organizational knowledge, the kind of stuff experienced workers tend to have, does AI primarily end up substituting for tasks done by more junior workers who maybe lack that deep context? Or could it actually complement the experienced workers, making their unique tacit knowledge even more valuable, more in demand?
That really is the multi-trillion-dollar question, isn't it?
It feels like it. How businesses solve that context bottleneck, whether they can successfully codify that tacit knowledge or if they still need the humans who hold it, that seems like it will shape the workforce for the next decade.
It's like the highest stakes arbitrage of institutional knowledge we've ever witnessed. Who can unlock it and leverage it with AI first?
We'll definitely keep tracking it. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.